Good afternoon, and welcome to Spirit Speaks on the World Today. I'm Reverend Jim Webb. I'm the author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, as well as other books, including Creating Your Self-Manifesting Vision Board and Forgive Your Way to Prosperity. Each time it is time, a group of beings that I channel, the masters of planetary healing and transformation, want to come through and give us guidance on what is happening in the world, for there is a different perspective. These are beings that I work with regularly when I do my intuitive coaching, when I do my intuitive guidance and readings, and when I do my individual counseling, for their purpose is to help us all to heal so that we can support the world in its healing. And so they have some guidance for us this afternoon in terms of what is happening in the world. So what we generally do is I go into trance, these beings come through, they offer an initial overview, and then you can ask your questions. So there's a chat or comments section where you can ask your questions, and my producer, Reverend Michael Mangus, will then take your questions, filter them, and ask them of the guides. So when I go out into trance, it's as if I'm asleep in the other room. I've been doing this now for over 30 years, and it's simple to me, even though it may seem to be a mystery to you. I simply relax, and I feel an energy that is loving, supportive, healing, and uplifting. This energy descends upon me in a sense, fills me, and this energy then animates my muscle movements. It uses the card catalog called my mind, my verbal skills, etc., to transmit messages, guidance, healing, and grace to you. So for me, it's no mystery. You may sense a subtle change, and what happens when the energy comes to me and through me is that there are times when my solid body resists such a highly vibrational electromagnetic energy, and I may start shaking, or you may specifically see my third eye, in a sense, vibrating with resistance to the light that is coming in. That's quite natural. The Quakers or the Shakers used to simply go into meditation and wait to feel the Holy Spirit of God. And that's when they started quaking or shaking. And that's why they called them the Quakers and the Shakers. So this is quite natural when we open ourselves to the great presence of love. So I'm going to do that right now, and we'll get started. But first, let me introduce Michael Mangus, Reverend Michael Mangus, who is going to help us out today. He's going to be our moderator. Hi, Michael.
Well, good afternoon, Jim, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everyone back. By popular demand, Spirit Speaks. And so,
Yeah.
if you could please put your questions in the chat. We will do as many as we can here before the top of the hour. So again, now is the time to go ahead and to get in line. And if you could, please limit it to at least to one. All right. Except the people in the chat right now. That's okay. But please limit your questions to one, and we'll get to as many as we can. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'll see you on the other side, Michael, and everyone. Greetings. It is our honor and pleasure to work with you in this way at this time. We would suggest that you take a moment to receive the light we would offer to you now. Just breathe. Just breathe. And as you breathe, focus all of the attention possible for you on your heart center. Just focus all of the attention possible for you on your heart center. Relax every muscle in your body. Focus your attention on your heart and breathe. Feel your heart being expanded by the healing, loving light of God's grace. As if hands of light are holding your heart and expanding it. Just breathe. Release all thoughts of the past, all apprehensions of the future, and in this moment, just breathe. Your heart is saying, I yearn to feel the loving grace, protection, and benevolence of God. And the energetic frequency that we offer you now is the energetic frequency of loving grace, protection, provision, compassion, and benevolence. Just breathe and receive this energy in your heart and in your sacral and root chakra, for we are working there as well, that you might be grounded in love and safety and protection and provision. Just breathe. And just breathe in the thought form and the sensation, I am filled with the loving grace, protection, compassion, and provision of God. And feel this energy welling up in your solar plexus. I am filled with the loving grace, protection, compassion, and provision of God. For I am one with the love of God. Now, just breathe this in. Just breathe this in. I am filled with and at one with the loving grace, healing, compassion, protection, and provision of God. Just breathe this in. Good. And feel the embrace of the light of God and your infilling with the light of God. And just breathe this in. Your heart is now healed of past trauma. Your energy is flooded with light, flushing out the darkness of doubt and fear and the fragility of shame. Just take a moment to rest in this energy, because as you are open in this way, God is using you as a channel for its light. And just breathe this in. I am a channel for God's love, light, and healing. As God's energy moves through me, it heals my life and heals the earth. Good. Just breathe this in. And know that it is God's intention and will to fulfill your desire for peace and joy as you allow the energy of God to move to you and through you, and cultivate yourself as a vessel for this energy by sitting with God. There is no longer any barrier between you and this energy. It is available to all equally and in equal measure as you avail yourself to it. And it heals your life, and it heals your nation, and it heals your planet. Breathe this in. and rest in this light. Good. Now we sense a deep concern for the direction of your nation and your world. Since what you call the elections in your country, there has been growing apprehension about the direction of your country and what beneficial effects this might have, as well as what detrimental effects this might have. We see a great deal of worry about the potential detrimental effects. And so we would begin to address your concerns here as you prepare to receive this information and the healing. Just breathe. As we step into this energy, we see the following. The being who has ultimate responsibility for your nation is aware of how actions can be taken seemingly without repercussions because the only organizations that could offer the powerful resistance necessary, the courts, move much more slowly than the rapidity of the actions that are taken. And this is what you see playing out. However, you do see the courts, when at all possible, stepping in, intervening. And you have begun to see a mechanism for rapid response to quickly bring up and out legal questions as to the legality of certain actions taken that you believe would be detrimental to your country and your world. So we see the strength and the ferocity and the ingenuity of the courts, the legal oppositions to this being as becoming more formidable, so that some of what you might consider to be your worst case scenarios are less likely to occur because of this opposition. Now, that being said, what we see is that your electorate has certain economic expectations. And this being was elected because they believed he would fulfill these economic expectations. And what we see is that certain actions will aggravate economic anxiety instead of mitigating economic anxiety. There are certain actions that have been taken and certain actions that will be taken that will have noticeable damaging effects on your economy, and others that will have psychologically damaging effects on your economy. For a great deal of your economic optimism and economic activity fueled by optimism is based on trust, and stability. And psychologically, when the markets feel unstable and when trust is eroded, markets, both consumer markets and investment markets, become skittish and economic activity is pared back and recessionary influences take over. Now, this is a trend that we see, as well as inflationary influences, that is likely due to volatility in certain markets. For example, there will be certain actions taken that have far reaching effects that have not been considered. For example, in the attempt to eliminate certain foreign aid programs, farmers in the Midwest are damaged because their output was used in these aid programs. These types of unintended consequences of largely symbolic actions will continue to erode trust in the economy, offer sudden price shocks to certain markets, and accelerate both inflationary and recessionary likelihoods. And once this volatility begins making its way through the economy, and as these unintended consequences become quite apparent to many, it will be in some cases too late to stop the curtailment of economic activity due to uncertainty, and certain recessionary and certain inflationary pressures will appear. This will cause decreased confidence in this leadership team and is likely to cause what you call voters to sour on this. Now, there are likely to be short-term impacts, economic impacts. However, your task is to work on yourselves by building within you a storehouse of healing, a storehouse of light, a storehouse of grace, a storehouse of internal goodwill. And as you do so, you create, in a sense, what in human terms might be considered money in the bank, because the goodwill of self-love, the goodwill of your recognition of yourself as holy, the goodwill of your recognition of yourself as divine and innocent and deserving only of good, must show up in your outer world, regardless of what is happening in the world at large. So focus not on the chaos around you. Focus instead upon the peace, the light, and the love that you nurture and cultivate within you. Now, of course, you are a part of this world, and of course, it is a very human trait to be concerned about what is happening not only to you but to others in the world. We do understand this, and you can help with this by focusing on your own inner storehouse of light, focusing in meditation, focusing in prayer, focusing in concentration and invocation of light. And as you do so not only for you, but you do so also for the world. For as you have already experienced, and as we have already said, God is using you and God needs you to provide the and to anchor the light on the earth necessary to move through this period in ways that ultimately lead to growth. And the whole purpose of this ultimately will lead to growth. For certain factions that have seemed to be divided will realize that they have been manipulated against each other. We find in the channel's consciousness an idea first stated during the Civil War. A house divided upon itself cannot stand. Your country has become so divided that certain actions taken based on certain leaders taking advantage of these divisions cause such damage that it forces your citizens to realize their oneness, for they realize how damaging their divisiveness has been. And they realize they have all been damaged by this divisiveness. So a new way must be chosen, a new way will be chosen, and growth and healing is the ultimate and inevitable result of this. So there is light on the other side of this. And we would offer you also what we have often said, that light has already prevailed. You are just seeing the last vestiges of darkness that come to your awareness that you may support their healing so that humanity may, as it chooses, choose to heal. So even though what we see right now feels as if the energy moves into a valley before re-emerging triumphantly as the light of unity, you will be fine as you cultivate the inner kingdom of heaven. And ultimately, the light has already prevailed, and this is the healing part of the journey that exposes what you might consider to be toxic thinking so that the toxins can be healed by light. In the same way that a body expels toxins for its healing and balance. For the human body is simply an amalgamation of your energies. And the human body of humanity is simply an amalgamation of consciousness. And this consciousness has already healed, and you are seeing the last vestiges of illness rising to the surface in the dysfunction that you see. This is what we would say to you about what is occurring right now. We would offer finally the reassurance the light has already prevailed, despite how dark it seems at times. And we would then open the session to any questions you might have about this topic.
Thank you, Masters. And our first question this evening is from Jane Batt, and she is asking, is Elon Musk an angel of unity, bringing everyone together by disrupting everything?
We would work with this. This being represents a discordant energy. And this being's mode of operation is to sow discord. We are finding in the channel's consciousness the analogy of a novelty record. For in the music business, a novelty record is one that becomes a very quick hit because it is novel. yet it has an extremely high wear-out factor because of its novelty. So being a novelty record is often a two-edged sword. This analogy is appropriate here because this being and its discord can be quite damaging to many. And the being's exhibition of callous disregard is of concern to many as it is on full display. And many realize that even though the being's callous disregard seems to be directed at what many beings might call mutual enemies, many beings realize that they could be the next enemy. And this is the realization that is dawning on the American population as we speak these words. And as the unintended consequences of some of these policies that are rushed through and start taking effect before courts have a chance to curtail them, as these policies take effect, beings realize that all beings are vulnerable and few beings are being supported or uplifted. And as the economy continues to falter due to a loss of confidence and an environment of instability, this becomes apparent as well. And so this being facilitates what we have discussed as an awareness of the need for humanity to heal its discordant energies, because humanity then realizes, based on what this being symbolizes, that these discordant energies that are destructive are not of God, are not of love, are not of union, are not of growth, are not of healing, and are not of the path of evolution that humanity has already chosen. So this being will have a relatively high wear out factor, like a novelty record. Is there perhaps another question?
Yes, Masters. We have another question from Day Trip. And their response is, how effective will the economic boycotts be?
We would step into that energy. And when we step into that energy, we see data scientists and statisticians presenting economic data to certain beings in executive positions, not your government executives, but beings in executive positions in what you might call private industry. And these leaders in private industry will take note in, we see certain leaders, Jamie Dimon and others, we see these leaders taking note in a somewhat shocked way of the economic impact of these actions. And it solidifies in their mind the idea that consumer certainty and consumer sentiment is an important driver of economic good. And even though this is a protest, it impresses upon them the importance of consumer confidence. And this causes them to begin to urge the administration to moderate its stances. And a certain level of economic, or we would say opposition from economic leaders, or warnings from economic, have an impact on the beings, the administration's actions and popularity. In other words, when business leaders start leaking ideas about how damaging to the economy the administration is, these business leaders who start doing so have done so in order to overtake the momentum that is damaging and to manage the momentum that is damaging. And this opposition of certain business leaders will be reflected in opposition from voters. And you will see a very interesting alliance where voters and large business leaders are in accord against an administration that is wreaking economic havoc. This is what we see here. This is the beginning of that dialogue, and it has an impact, is what we would say. Is there perhaps another question?
Yes, Masters. I'm going to combine a couple of questions from Felicia and also from BJ. Felicia says, what can the American people do to preserve our democracy and stop uh, authoritarism? And also, what is the damage to our democratic system, the intelligence that is depleted from the loss if seasoned and employees are leaving or being fired? And how will we ever recover from this?
We would work with this. There is a risk that certain areas where decades of expertise have been necessary, this expertise will be lost, but its effect will be seen and felt to the degree that let us find the human words for this. Americans do not realize the impact their government has on their lives in the same way that you never realize the intricate working mechanisms of a car as long as it starts and stops and takes you where you want to go. You never realize that the thousands of connections and the chips and the sensors and the motors and the engines and the batteries and the components all have to work together like a finely tuned machine, for that is what it is. In order for everything to work, and one little thing can wreak havoc, as you have known from experiencing car repairs. Now, in your government, your citizenry in your country does not realize the role that government plays because largely government has been like a car that is running and takes you where you want it to go. However, when Americans start seeing rapid fire failures, and the analogy that we would use is when Americans start realizing that the expertise to support them in things like filing taxes, receiving their government payments, even managing their medical experiences. When this expertise is gone and when the Americans are impacted in this way, only then do they realize and can have an informed debate on the role of government. And we would actually put this in human shorthand. All Americans think that the role of government is too big, except for the ways that government helps them. And when government stops helping them in these ways, such as when they have a question of a government agency and they cannot get a call back for 72 hours, or when they are expecting a government payment and this government payment does not come, or when they are in need of government support and that support is no longer available. They then no longer think government is too big. So this is enlightening for the citizenry of your country. And there will be damage, but this damage ultimately will enlighten many. And a new debate on government and its role will will occur with clearer eyes, not just slogans. And this is the dawning of a new era of government and intelligent public debate without misinformation. You see, misinformation has caused many to have stark opinions and ideas devoid of facts. And misinformation can thrive until personal experience refutes the misinformation. So when Americans have personal experience that causes them to realize or reevaluate the importance of government, they are no longer vulnerable to such misinformation. And this empowers Americans. You see, the whole purpose of this march to the light is to empower humans to realize they have the power. They have the power to vote. They have the power to make themselves heard. They have the power to create the world they desire, just as you do. So as we share with you the idea to create the inner world that you desire and then allow it to be reflected in your outer world, this is a lesson for all of humanity that they may do the same. And the lessons that are being learned right now ultimately empower humans to do just that, as humans are lifted to a new level of self awareness, self empowerment, and mastery, as the earth is moved to a new level of self awareness, self empowerment, and mastery. And this is what we would say here.
Thank you, Masters. We have time for one more question, and it's from Don. And Don says, I've seen two articles uh, presenting information suggesting that our current president and Elon Musk cheated. Is this true, and will it catch up with them?
We would work with this. The unscrupulous acts of these beings are on full display, and Americans are aware of these beings' capabilities for unscrupulous acts. The degree of these acts is not a part of the public dialogue at this time, but Americans on many levels have been made aware that these beings have not always worked in integrity. Now, these beings believed, the beings who voted for a certain candidate, believed that this candidate would have the power and skill to make their lives better. And that belief trumped their concern about honesty, integrity, unity, clarity, etc. But when these beings find that, in fact, their lives have been negatively affected by the chaos, these beings turn on those that they would have otherwise seen as their saviors. And humanity learns a lesson here. So the question of the degree of unscrupulous acts is secondary to the lesson and the healing that is on display as these beings who received what you would call in human terms a pass. Voters gave them a pass relating to character issues. As time evolves and as certain events evolve, the lessons learned and the empowerment gained as a result will lead humanity and your country into more empowerment and ultimately into more healing, for the divisions created or aggravated by these beings will be healed. And ultimately, this is the good news. And this is what we would say about this.
Thank you, Masters. We are out of Earth time. Is there a final blessing or final words of encouragement that you would like to give us?
Yes. As we have stated before, during tumultuous times such as these, as light workers, your task is to retreat into the light within you. Nurture that light. Cultivate the feeling of well-being this light offers. Cultivate feelings of empowerment and unity with the light of your Creator. Cultivate a vision of a world that you would like to see. Cultivate this vision regardless of what is happening outside of you. Cultivate peace despite chaos outside of you. Cultivate the energy, the feeling, the idea, and the vision of what you desire versus what you oppose. Now, certain physical opposition and demonstrations are useful, yes. And certain things such as boycotts can be useful, yes. However, the key here is to focus on what you desire to experience versus focusing on that which you fight or resist. For it is very important for you to understand the nature of your creative energy. Whatever you focus your creative energy on is expanded. So when you focus your valuable creative energy on what you oppose, you actually inadvertently add creative energy to it. So instead, focus your creative energy on what you desire and build an internal world that you would like to see by asking yourself simple questions such as, what would it look like for Congress to actually legislate in ways that are for the greatest good of all? What would it look like for Congress to be effective in their role as one of the key branches of government? What would it look like for the courts to be devoid of ideology and focus on the laws and how the laws can be for the greatest good of the greatest number? Focus on these ideas versus what you oppose. Stay in the fullness of your light within, not in the fear of your ego body, triggered by events outside of you. Know what you can control, the light within you, and what you can't. The actions of an unscrupulous politician. And focus where your energy will have the most effective result, and that is within you. For you do not always embrace the power you have to create the world you desire. And as you do so, you are actually letting God work through you to create this world. And God's power is greater than anything you see in this world, as the channel is fond of saying. So this is what we would say to you in summary. Take a moment to receive a final blessing. Good. Good. Be blessed and in God forever. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
You'll have to take a listen to the recording later on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I heard through the grapevine that
Mhm.
someone has some classes coming up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Someone does. Spirit Speaks on Creating Miracles begins on March 10th. A miracle is a shift in perception that shifts your outer world as a result. And there are many areas where we collectively have been yearning for miracles. We have been yearning for miracles as it relates to healing family trauma. And so one week, Spirit will work with everybody in the class to provide energy treatments, healings, insights, and answers to questions to heal family trauma. Another week, Spirit will work with another area where we have yearned for miracles. Miracles as it relates to relationship harmony, relationships that we have with others, and human relationships, issues such as racism, sexism, etc. And Spirit will provide guidance and healing for every participant, and by way of every participant, guidance and healing for humanity on these issues. Issues such as manifesting. Spirit will spend one evening providing specific energetic spiritual treatments that enable you to manifest more easily and more effortlessly. So there's a laundry list of topics that Spirit will do. But each week will be a different topic that will enable you to manifest the miracles that you have desired in your life in these key areas that affect everyone. That's 8 weeks beginning on March 10th. And there's a discount for pre registration, but that discount is an incentive. But the best incentive is that my classes tend to sell out because I have to limit the amount of people. And so it's very important to register way beforehand versus waiting to the last minute when the classes will be sold out. So that's what I'm doing on Monday nights. And then on Thursday nights, I'm doing creating your heaven on earth. These will be practical exercises that take some of the information we get on Monday nights and other information, and this is how you can create this in your world, how you can manifest this in your world. So it'll be a series of exercises, discussions, coaching, and energetic adjustments to support you in manifesting your heaven on earth as opposed to the hellish situations of your past. So this is going to be quite powerful. There's always new information coming and new techniques and new tools that Spirit is introducing for us. And the two work together. It's 2 classes for the price of one with a significant pre-registration discount. And it's on Zoom, so you also get the recordings, so you can work with the recordings at your leisure. And if you can't interact and ask questions and do it real time, you can audit the class for $100. And that means you get the recordings and you can work on it on your own. And many of the questions people ask are the same questions you wanted to ask anyway. So if you can't make it interactively, then audit the class and get the recordings. And there's no limit on the number of people who can do that. So register today before the classes sell out. If you've got other questions, check out my website. Text me at 202-253-6009 and we'll chat. So that's what I've got going on. I'm quite excited because Spirit has been pouring all this new information into me, and I'm very excited to see how all already and how it can help people who have yet to take my classes. So big fun.
We are not kidding about or because these classes will sell out. All right. Jim only allows a certain amount of students in the class. So if you want to be live in the class, today is the day that you need to call 202-253-6009 or to go on the website at reverendjimwebb.com. All right. Any final words for us this evening, Reverend Jim?
I want to thank you, Michael. Thank you for putting this together, and thank you for making it happen and making it work. And I want to thank all of our viewers. Everybody, have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.